Bonjour, good afternoon. Permettez-moi tout d'abord de remercier les ministres Cho et Kim d'être venus au Canada et de s'être joints à mon collègue et moi pour le dialogue inaugural d'aujourd'hui. C'est toujours un plaisir d'être avec mon collègue, le ministre de la Défense, Bill Blair, également. C'est un honneur pour le Canada d'accueillir cette discussion importante en cette période de défis mondiaux, mais aussi de possibilités. Let me begin by addressing the recent intercontinental ballistic missile launch by North Korea. Canada strongly condemns North Korea's actions, which clearly violates the UN Security Council resolutions and threatens peace and stability in the entire region. I also want to say a few words on the deployment of North Korean troops to Russia's Kursk region. This deployment marks the first foreign military intervention since Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. It shows Putin's desperation and his willingness to escalate this conflict at any cost, as well as his need to compensate for his military losses. It represents a significant escalation of this conflict, and we have been clear in condemning North Korea's deepening involvement in this conflict, which includes the supply of ammunition and ballistic missiles to Russia. We call on North Korea and on Russia to withdraw North Korean troops from Russia and Ukraine. This evolving situation is exactly why we need to have a strategic discussion with close friends and partners like the Republic of Korea. Today's meetings are a key outcome of the action plan that Minister Cho and I announced last July in Seoul together. La dernière année a été bien remplie et couronnée de succès. Nous avons constaté de nombreux progrès entre nos deux pays, notamment en ce qui concerne notre collaboration dans le domaine des minéraux critiques, de la sécurité économique et des droits de la personne. Le partenariat stratégique global qui existe entre le Canada et la République de Corée évolue rapidement. Il reflète une étroite harmonie entre nos deux pays sur de nombreux fronts. La déclaration commune d'aujourd'hui témoigne de notre détermination à travailler ensemble pour la stabilité mondiale face aux défis dans la région Indo-Pacifique et au-delà. Canada and the Republic of Korea share a common vision for the Indo-Pacific region to be more secure, free, and prosperous. We look forward to future discussions with our Korean friends on how we can work even more effectively together, including during Canada's upcoming G7 presidency and the Republic of Korea's hosting of the APEC Forum in 2025. The statement also contains important deliverables and provides a roadmap for ongoing and future cooperation. The relationship between our two countries dates back centuries and is reinforced by our collective efforts since the Korean War to defend peace and security on the Korean Peninsula, and the new initiatives and announcements arising from today's discussions will continue to build upon this relationship. Aujourd'hui, nous ouvrons un nouveau chapitre de l'histoire entre le Canada et la République de Corée. Alors, je remercie les ministres Cho et le ministre Kim pour justement leur présence et leur amitié. Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much.
Is my turn?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. 안녕하십니까. 대한민국 외교부 장관 조태열입니다. 졸리 장관님, 블레어 장관님, 우리 대표단을 따뜻하게 환대해 주셔서 다시 한번 감사합니다. 양국 간 첫 2+2 외교국방장관 회의를 준비하기 위해 애써주신 모든 분들께도 감사의 말씀을 드립니다. 우리 두 장관이 이번에 캐나다를 방문한 것은 금년에 이미 있었던 두 분 장관님의 방안에 대한 답방의 의미도 있어서 더욱 뜻깊게 생각합니다. 한국과 캐나다는 보편적 가치를 공유하는 절친이자 규범기반 국제질서 수호를 위해 함께 협력하는 핵심 파트너입니다. 2022년 윤석열 대통령의 캐나다 방문 시 양국 관계가 포괄적 전략 동반자 관계로 격상된 이후 양국은 협력의 범위를 안보, 국방, 경제, 문화 등 전방위적으로 확대 심화해 왔습니다. 오늘 개최된 제1차 2+2 외교국방장관 회의는 이처럼 강화되고 격상된 양국 관계를 웅변적으로 말해주는 것입니다. 오늘 회의에서 우리는 러북 군사협력이 전 세계의 평화 안전에 중대한 위협이자 다수의 유엔 안보리 결의에 대한 명백한 위반임을 재확인하고 이를 강력히 규탄하였으며 북한군의 즉각적인 철수와 러브 군사협력의 중단을 촉구하는 한편 향후 사태 진전에 따른 구체적인 대응 조치 과정에서 긴밀히 공조하기로 합의하였습니다. 아울러 우리는 이틀 전 북한의 장거리 탄도미사일 발사를 비롯해 북한의 불법적인 대량 살상 무기 및 탄도미사일 프로그램 개발을 가장 강력한 언어로 규탄하였습니다. 우리는 북한의 완전한 비핵화 목표를 재확인하고 양국의 참여하에 최근 출범한 다국적 제재 모니터링 팀의 활동을 통해 북한의 유엔 안보리 결의 위반 행위를 감시하고 대북 제재 이행을 견인하는 데 있어 함께 협력해 나가기로 하였습니다. 캐나다의 네온 작전 등 북한의 불법 해상 활동 차단을 위한 양국 간 협력도 더욱 강화해 나가기로 하였습니다. 아울러 열악한 북한 인권 상황에 대한 깊은 우려를 공유하고 진정한 한반도 평화를 위해서는 자유와 인권이 북한으로 확대되어야 한다는 데 견해를 같이 하였습니다. 이와 관련 캐나다 측은 자유평화 번영의 통일 한반도 비전이 담긴 윤석열 대통령의 8.15 통일 독트린에 대한 지지를 확인하였습니다. 양국은 가치를 공유하는 핵심 파트너로서 규범 기반 질서 수호를 위해서도 긴밀히 협력해 나가기로 하였습니다. 이를 위해 한 캐나다 인태 대화를 새롭게 발족하여 실질 협력 사업들을 구체적으로 논의해 나가기로 하였습니다. 유럽과 인태 지역 안보가 상호 긴밀하게 연계되고 있는 상황 하에서 핵심 가치를 공유하는 국가 간 연대를 강화하고 나토와 인태 지역 파트너 간 협력을 심화시켜 나갈 필요가 있다는 데 대해서도 견해를 같이 하였습니다. 이와 관련 인권은 핵심 가치로서 특히 분쟁 상황에서 이를 보호할 특별한 의무가 있습니다. 이런 측면에서 우리는 캐나다, 노르웨이, 우크라이나 정부가 우크라이나 평화 공식 인도적 측면에 관한 장관급 회의를 주최하고 몬트리올 서약을 발표한 것을 높이 평가하며 한국도 동서약에 동참한 국가로서 앞으로 필요한 역할을 해 나가고자 합니다. 또한 양국은 기후변화, 여성 평화 안보 등 비전통적 안보 위협에 대한 공동 대응 방안을 함께 모색해 나가기로 하였으며 사이버 위협, 신흥기술 위협에 함께 대응하기 위해 한 캐나다 사이버 정책 협의회를 출범시키기로 합의하였습니다. 아울러 핵심 우방국 간 정보 교류와 협력이 중요하다는 데 공감하고 양국 외교부 간 정보 협력을 강화해 나가기로 합의하였습니다. 끝으로 지난 70여 년간 북한의 위협에 대비해 오면서 우수한 방산 기술과 노하우를 축적해온 한국의 방산 역량을 토대로 양국은 호혜적인 방산 안보 협력을 심화해 나가기로 합의하였습니다. 올해는 작년 양국 수요 60주년을 뒤로하고 새로운 60년의 첫 발을 내딛는 한 해입니다. 함께 할 때 더욱 강력하다는 믿음으로 양국은 앞으로 2+2 외교 국방장관회의를 정례화하여 경년으로 개최하기로 합의하였습니다. 2년 후에는 서울에서 두 분 장관님을 다시 뵙고 한 캐나다 협력의 핵심 축인 안보 국방 파트너십을 한 단계 더 진전시키기 위한 방안을 협의하게 되기를 고대합니다. 감사합니다.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a true honor and a pleasure to be here alongside Minister Kim and Minister Cho, and of course, my colleague Minister Joly. Last month, our two countries co-hosted the second United Nations Command Ministerial in Seoul. And at that meeting, I had the opportunity to speak of the deep bond that exists between Canada and the Republic of Korea. This is a bond that has been forged through years of collaboration. It's been cemented on the battlefields of the Korean War, and it's been sustained through our dedication to upholding peace and stability and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific and around the world. And that's why it's a true honor today to host the Republic of Korea as Canada's first ministerial level 2+2 meeting with an important and essential Indo-Pacific partner. During our meetings today, we had very productive discussions on how Canada and the Republic of Korea can continue to deepen our already close relationship. Among those relationships, we have reaffirmed our support to the United Nations Command, along with other member states, to maintain peace on the Korean Peninsula. And Canada is proud to have one of our own as Deputy Commander of the UN Command, Lieutenant General Derek McCauley. We discussed increasing our collaboration between our armed forces through joint military exercises and activities. And we discussed strengthening the ties between our defense industries, which we are already doing with the Canada-Republic of Korea Defense Cooperation Conference that is happening here in Ottawa today. Both Canada and the Republic of Korea see mutual benefit when we work together on defense industrial cooperation. And it's by investing in our defense industries, we are growing the Canadian and the Korean economies. We're investing in jobs. We're investing in our workers and their families. And as our world becomes increasingly volatile and uncertain, it's vital that Canada keeps working with our trusted partners to uphold global security and stability. I am very sincerely thankful to have such a partner in the Republic of Korea, and I look forward to every opportunity to continue our work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Good work.
네, 반갑습니다. 대한민국 국방부 장관입니다. 회의를 준비해 주신 블레어 장관님과 졸리 장관님께 다시 한번 감사드립니다. 북한은 어제도 탄도미사일을 발사하며 국제사회를 위협하는 불법적 도발을 지속하고 있습니다. 이와 같은 엄중한 안보 상황 가운데 한국과 캐나다의 국방장관과 외교장관이 한자리에 모여 심도 있는 논의를 한 것은 매우 의미 있고 시의적절했다고 생각합니다. 한국과 캐나다는 자유민주주의 가치를 공유하는 인도태평양 국가이자 인태 지역에서 가장 신뢰할 수 있는 협력 파트너입니다. 캐나다는 6.25 전쟁 참전 이후 1953년 휴전 협정에도 불구하고 한반도를 한 번도 떠난 적이 없습니다. 캐나다는 6.25 전쟁 당시 자유 대한민국을 지키기 위해 2만 7천 명의 군인을 파병했고 그중에 516명의 캐나다 군인들이 희생되었습니다. 이분들의 고귀한 희생 덕분에 오늘의 자유 대한민국이 있는 것입니다. 대한민국 국민을 대신해서 캐나다의 참전과 헌신에 다시 한번 깊이 감사드립니다. 특히 캐나다의 6.25 참전 용사 고 존 로버트 코미어 씨는 한국에 묻히고 싶다는 마지막 유언에 따라 2022년 한국 유엔 기념공원에 안장되어 지금도 한국을 지키고 계십니다. 대한민국 국민들은 존 로버트 코미어 참전 용사님의 숭고한 뜻에 감사하면서 영원히 기억할 것입니다. 뿐만 아니라 휴전 이후 한반도 안보의 중추적 역할을 담당하는 유엔군 사령부에 캐나다는 핵심적 역할을 수행해 왔고 지금도 맥클리 캐나다 육군 중장께서 부사령관을 맡고 계십니다. 지난달 저는 블레어 장관님과 함께 서울에서 2차 한 유엔사 회원국 국방장관 회의를 공동으로 주재하였습니다. 이를 통해 저와 블레어 장관님은 한국과 캐나다가 한반도를 넘어 인태 지역의 평화와 안정을 위한 진정한 포괄적 전략 동반자 관계에 있음을 재확인하였습니다. 이를 토대로 오늘 한국과 캐나다는 최초로 외교 국방 장관 회의를 개최하였습니다. 이는 한국 캐나다 양국 관계 발전의 새로운 이정표로서 오늘 우리는 다양한 주제에 대해 심도 있는 논의를 진행했습니다. 첫째, 최근 러시아와 북한이 군사 협력을 강화하면서 유럽 대서양 지역과 인도 태평양 지역에 대한 동시적 위협으로 작용하고 있음에 인식을 같이 하였습니다. 특히 최근 북한군의 러시아 파병이 유엔 결의 위반이며 한반도와 세계 평화를 위협하는 불법 행위임을 강력히 규탄하였고 이에 대한 국제사회의 대응에 있어 양국이 긴밀히 협력해 나가기로 하였습니다. 둘째, 양국은 연합훈련, 평화유지활동, 인적 교류 등 국방협력을 지속 강화하기로 하는 한편 캐나다 전력의 현대화 등 방산 분야에서의 양국 간 협력에 대해서도 의견을 나누었습니다. 셋째, 양국은 서로가 인태 지역의 핵심 파트너임을 확인하고 영내 규칙 기반 국제 질서 수호를 위한 협력 방안을 논의하고 이를 지속 확대해 나가기로 하였습니다. 평화롭고 아름다운 도시 오타와에서 회담을 준비해 주신 캐나다 측 관계자분들께 다시 한번 감사의 말씀을 드리며 인도 태평양 지역의 중요한 파트너로서 한국과 캐나다의 전략적 협력 관계를 더욱 발전시켜 나가는 데 최선을 다하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you, Minister.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to today's press conference to close of one of the defense questions to Mr. Leading. And thank you, Minister Cho, Minister Kim, Mr. Blair, and Mr. Joly for participating. All right, my name is Simon Lafortune. I will be the moderator today, so we'll keep it simple. I would invite Media to simply line up on the mic in the lane right over there. We'll keep it to one question and one follow-up. I just want to remind everyone to be conscious of time. We just want to make sure every media outlet gets a chance to ask their respective questions, and please start off by specifying your outlet for which you work for. And please specify which minister you also wish to ask your question to. Je vais le faire en français si vous permettez. Donc, rapidement, bienvenue tout le monde à la conférence de presse pour clore cette rencontre. Donc, je m'appelle Simon Lafortune, je vais être votre modérateur. Juste pour garder ça simple, vous pouvez vous mettre en ligne dans la rangée là-bas pour poser vos questions. Une question, un follow-up par la suite. Et s'il vous plaît, juste spécifier le média pour lequel vous travaillez et aussi spécifier le ministre ou la ministre à laquelle vous voulez poser la question. Merci.
Hi, my name is Manna. I'm from CTV. My question is about we're seeing the polls in the United States showing a neck-to-neck race. So with the increased chance that Trump might win the presidential elections, does this worry you? And this goes to Minister Joly, and it could go to Minister Cho as well. Thank you.
So this is a question that many journalists across the country are asking me, and I'm convinced also many journalists in Korea that are asking you. And my answer is always the same, which is, of course, we respect the wish and the will of American people, and we will be ready to work with whomever is going to be elected by them, and therefore in the White House. And as we've been doing so for the last 9 years, we've had the experience of working with the Obama administration, with the Trump administration, as well as the Biden administration. So I'll keep it to that. Thank you.
지금 어느 누구에게 그 질문을 해도 정확한 답을 할 수 있는 분은 한 분도 없으리라고 생각을 합니다. 제가 지금 오타와 오기 전에 워싱턴에 들려서 2+2 회의를 하고 왔는데 거기서도 양 진영의 측근 인사들을 만났고 또 서울을 방문하는 수많은 사람들을 만났는데 한결같이 예측 불허라는 답이었습니다. 그 중에 한 분은 저한테 누군가가 자기 머리에 총을 겨누고 지금 당장 속마음을 밝혀라라고 협박을 한다 해도 내 답은 예측 불허다라는 답밖에 할 수밖에 없다. 그런 얘기를 한 적이 있는데 지금도 선거일에 다가올수록 오히려 더 초박빙의 그런 상황으로 가고 있는 거 아닌가 싶어서 결과를 예측하기는 극히 어렵다는 말씀을 드리고 방금 졸리 장관님 말씀처럼 누가 대통령에 당선되든 우리 한국의 경우는 한미 동맹에 대한 초당적인 지지가 있기 때문에 거기에 대한 강력한 믿음을 토대로 양국 관계가 새 행정부 아래에서도 더욱 긴밀한 동맹 관계로 발전할 수 있도록 준비를 하고 있다는 말씀만 드리겠습니다.
I get a follow-up question. Okay. But I want to get a little bit just more specific. I understand that you'll be able to deal with whoever ends up winning the election. But with Trump, Ukrainian officials are worried about the possibility of him winning Middle East. They're also concerned about the possibility of him winning NATO. So I'm wondering if he does win, how, like, given that Canada's way of dealing, for example, with NATO, Middle East, and Ukraine is different than his own views, how would you deal with that specifically? Thank you.
So I know if I was in your shoes, I would be asking the same question. And if you were in my shoes, you would be answering the same way, which is, of course, this is a hypothetical question. And we will deal with the reality of the decision by American people when we will know the results. And meanwhile, we'll be ready. Today, we've been working on the Indo-Pacific. And of course, we've talked about the connection between North Korean troops being in Russia, ready to deploy to Ukraine, and therefore we've talked about Ukraine. Yesterday, I was in Montreal hosting a conference on the human dimension of the peace formula presented by President Zelensky, and particularly talking about Ukrainian children and prisoners of war that need to be able to come back home. And so I was with Ukrainian officials. Of course, we had conversations about Ukraine, about the US, about the Indo-Pacific. But meanwhile, I must say that we will abide by the results and we will be ready. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Jillian Piper with Global News. My question is for Minister Yong-hyun and Minister Cho, if you'd like as well. What action do you want to see the international community take in response to North Korea's intercontinental ballistic missile launch to avoid escalation? Is the international community taking this threat seriously enough right now?
네, 북한의 ICBM 발사는 유엔 안보리 결의 위반이자 불법적인 도발 행위입니다. ICBM 사거리가 한 10,000km 정도 이상이 되는데요. 이 사거리를 고려할 때 북한이 지금 불법적인 핵 개발을 하지 않았습니까? 물론 이제 공식적으로 인정하진 않았지만 이 불법적으로 개발한 이 핵이 그 ICBM에 탑재가 된다면 이 지구상에 있는 어떤 나라도 북핵 위협에 자유로울 수가 없습니다. 그래서
of North Korea. And so the international community should denounce this with a single voice and should actively participate in sanctions against the North.
북한의
Regarding the DPRK's test launch of ICBM, this is not the first time that they did it. Already 7 to 8 years ago, they violated the UNSC resolution back then as well. I was serving as the Iraq ambassador to the United Nations when the DPRK testified the ICBM. And even in the span of 1 year, we were able to impose 4 sanctions against the DPRK. However, recently, the UN Security Council has become dysfunctional. Why? Because China and Russia, unlike 7 years before, are blocking all of the sanctions that the West is promoting and pursuing. Therefore, the UNSC cannot do anything about the DPRK engaging in such illegal acts. The launch of the ICBM is being taken seriously by the international community. However, due to the changes in the geopolitical landscape, we cannot really move as we intend to move. Therefore, I believe that you should not misunderstand that the international community is doing nothing. Even if the resolution is not adopted at the Security Council level, members of the international community are making condemnations, and they will likely take actions as well. And in the near future, the Security Council meeting will be convened again.
And Minister Joly, I have a question for you as well.
Yeah.
Regardless of who wins the U.S. election, how concerned are you for the potential for violence in the aftermath of whoever's decided to win?
So my answer would be the same as what I answered your colleague, and I'm sorry to disappoint you, but of course, we will be dealing with what is going on in the U.S. Once American people will have taken their decision, we will adapt, we will be ready, and at all times, we will defend our national interests and the interests of Canadians, and Canadians can be reassured and convinced that we will be there to defend them and to make sure that ultimately we continue to have a strong and positive relationship with our neighbor and ally.
Dale Smith, I'm with Reuters. Yes, for the Korean delegation. Yesterday, the State Department readout from your meeting said that both sides further identified measures to address the challenges posed by increased DPRK-Russia security cooperation. Can you elaborate on what some of those measures are?
Regarding military cooperation between Russia and the DPRK and North Korea's troop dispatch to Russia, those matters have an impact not only on the security of East Asia, it has an impact on the global security as well. Therefore, the U.S. and Korea share the concerns on that part and agreed to coordinate our actions. Regarding the specifics of those actions, we will have to keep a close eye on the further developments in the military cooperation between those two nations in phases and in commensurate with the actions taken by those two countries. We will have to make decisions accordingly. The specifics cannot be revealed at this point, but based on the scenarios in place, we will be calmly taking those actions.
On North Korean dispatch of troops to Russia, there are three things that we should remember. The first is, what is the essence of the North Korean troop dispatch? The essence is there's a third-party intervention in the Ukraine war. Thereby, there is the concern of escalation. So suddenly, North Korea, this variable has come into play in the Ukrainian war, and this has led to concern over escalation. So it's not just for Ukraine, but many other European countries also, and even the Korean Peninsula, the Republic of Korea, being concerned about the situation. So that is the essence. The second is, what is the nature of the North Korean dispatch? So Russia began this war in Ukraine, and at the UN, it was already defined as an illegal invasion war. And North Korea is colluding in this illegal invasion. And so North Korean action is also illegal. It is wrong. And North Korea has sent its troops as mercenaries. They basically sold their soldiers to this war. So this is an act against humanity. It is an act of war crime. And so all of the responsibility lies in North Korea and in Russia. So I think that is how we should think about it. So the third aspect is, how should we respond? So Russia, North Korea, these totalitarian countries, these authoritarian, dictatorial countries, to fight against them, there has to be strong solidarity and unity among the countries of freedom and democracy. So we have to show our ability to unite. So in that respect, our countries, free countries, democratic countries, should strongly unite.
Follow-up, are you considering whether to send more weapons to Ukraine as a result of this dispatch of North Korean troops?
아까 답변에서
As I previously mentioned, all possible scenarios are under consideration. specifically, we will be watching the level of the DPRK forces' participation in the war, and what will be the quid pro quo that North Korea will be receiving from Russia. We will take all those into consideration before making specific decisions.
We've been seeing a lot of failures on the part of Putin in this war since the beginning. And at the same time, we've been seeing that Putin has no red line. And we've been saying that for now months. And the fact that he's now bringing North Korean troops shows that he wants to compensate for its own military losses, but also that he's willing to actually go very far. And that's why we need to make sure that we're strong in our support to Ukraine. And we've had this same position as a country where we believe that Ukraine should receive an invitation to join NATO following the war, because we think it's the best way to make sure that the territorial integrity, sovereignty of Ukraine is protected. And second, we also believe that long-range missiles should be able to be used by Ukraine to achieve military targets in Russia, because that also would help Ukrainians to be able to fight for their own freedom, but also ours.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nick Murray. I'm with the Canadian Press. My questions are for Minister Joly, and they're actually on Lebanon, so my apologies to our guests, but they're free to answer if they wish. We had been getting regular updates from GAC with regards to the number of Canadian, or rather the number of people who had been leaving Lebanon on commercial options. We haven't been getting those updates for a while, so I can only assume that those blocks of seats and those charter flights perhaps have ceased. So I'm just wondering if we can have an update on what is Canada doing actively to help facilitate Canadians and other citizens leave Lebanon, particularly if we have an urgent need to do so.
So at this point, we're more than 1,500 Canadians that have been able to be supported through an assisted departure from the Beirut airport to the Istanbul airport. And we will continue to assist and also make sure that there are reserved seats on commercial flights. And we go based on the demand. We, contrary to what you're saying that we have seized, no, we have not seized our operation. It continues. And also we have continued to keep our assets in the region to make sure that should, for example, the airport be not open anymore, that we could have ways to make sure that Canadians can leave Lebanon. Meanwhile, my message to Canadians is always the same. If you're in Lebanon, it's more than time to leave. And please, of course, as you can see the situation deteriorating, please don't go to Lebanon.
And a follow-up question regarding Turkey from a colleague. Will you agree to hold an inquiry further to a request from advocates into the recent death of a Canadian woman in a Turkish prison after Canada, or rather after Ottawa refused to repatriate her from a Syrian detention camp?
We absolutely need to shed light on what happened. This is a Canadian woman that indeed died in circumstances that we need to understand. Her 6 children are in Canada, and we owe them the truth, and not only that, we owe them support. And so they can personally count on me to make sure that that is a priority of mine and of my team.
Merci beaucoup.
Yes.
코리아 뉴스위크 신지영 기자입니다.
I am Shin Ji-young from Korean News. My question is for Minister Kim Yong-hyun. Canada participated in the Korean War. What significance does it have to you, Minister, and the friendship of Canada and the ROC, and the trusting relationship and the cooperation? So will that be connected to the defense industry area in the future as well? Thank you very much for your question. So, as I mentioned in my earlier statement, Canada came to assist the Republic of Korea when we were in a very difficult situation. Canada has sent the 3rd largest troops to Korea and also endured much loss. So because of this sacrifice and participation of Canada in the war, the freedom and the prosperity of the Republic of Korea was possible. Without our sacrifice, Korea, free Korea would not exist today. So in that respect, Canada's participation in the war and also to the sacrifice of the Canadian soldiers, we expressed our deep gratitude. And also, the Canada-ROC relationship today is a relationship of trusting partners in the Indo-Pacific region. So we are reliable, trusting partners. And we respect each other as partners. We play our respective roles as partners. And we have this trusting foundation upon which we can continue to cooperate in the defense industry as well. So we have this basic trusting partnership, without which it would not be easy to cooperate in defense industry. But because we have this trusting relationship established, that defense industry issues can very easily be another area of cooperation for us.
Excuse me, Michel Comte with Agence France Presse. This question is for the Defense Minister of Korea. We heard yesterday that North Korean troops were massing on the border in Russia with Ukraine. Do you have any intelligence, new and fresh intelligence you'd like to share with us today on their movements, specifically if they've entered into combat with Ukrainians?
So North Korea has sent about 11,000 troops to Russia. So that is what we have determined at the moment. And about 8,000 have been deployed in the front line. And it's mostly in the Kursk region.
Thank you. Excuse me.
Hello, Evan Dyer, CBC News, for both the Korean and Canadian ministers. Given that North Korea is already one of the most sanctioned and isolated countries in the world, could you explain what kind of concrete measures remain to be taken against North Korea as its soldiers enter into Ukrainian territory?
You want to go first and then we'll go?
지금
At this point, we're talking with our like-minded countries, including the United States and Canada. And based on our discussions, first of all, the North Korean troops are already in Russia and they are already on the battlefield. Therefore, trying to reduce the level of participation or delaying the participation or deterring the additional participation on those fronts. So we are trying to coordinate amongst ourselves and apply some pressure to Russia as well. So that's where we are working on. And if the North Korean forces actually take part in the war and reach a certain level of participation, and we will have to watch that. And at the same time, we will have to see what North Korea will be receiving in return for their participation. And based on all those elements, we will be making specific decisions. But at this point, the situation is quite fluid. And if the situation worsens, then we'll have to make determinations as to the specific measures to be taken. That's what I can share with you at this point.
Evan, I think different things. First, we will impose more sanctions on North Korea, and we're looking at all other person or entities that could be involved in the fact that some sanctions are being eluded, and therefore part of the conversation today was trying to get names and entities and working also with South Korea, working with the US and also other G7 partners to make sure we put maximum pressure. Now, we know that the sanctions have an impact, but sometimes also we have to do more. That's why also we're in favor, like I mentioned to your colleague, a NATO invitation and also long-range missiles, because we think that this would have an impact concretely in terms of deterrence. But also I would add, since we were with the Ukrainians yesterday, and I met with Andriy Yermak, which is the head of the president's office in Ukraine, and also he met with Prime Minister Trudeau. We are looking at trying to make sure that there is good intelligence sharing, particularly with the Koreans, with the Ukrainians, and all G7 partners. This is, of course, a new chapter that is opening in the Ukraine war, and we need to make sure that all our allies and partners are very much more organized in sharing the understanding of the implication of this involvement of North Korean troops.
And also, just for you, Minister Joly,
Yeah.
Donald Trump has said he's going to name Robert F. Kennedy Jr., an anti-vax conspiracy theorist, to head women's health issues in the United States. I know you don't want to comment on the election, but I would just ask, what is your message to American women who might be concerned about their health and safety and looking at Canada as a possible option?
Okay, so of course I won't comment on what's going on in the US, but what I can say to Canadian women here at home is that we have their back.
All right. Given that there's no more questions, that's what concludes the press conference. C'est ce qui conclut la conférence de presse. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.